Hello to the most beautiful people in the world. Hi guys, my name as always is Naya Abbey and you're welcome to my channel, Yabbies Own. In today's video, I'm just going to share with you some expectations from when you live in Hungary, things you should expect, things you shouldn't expect, things to do, things not to do. I think this video is going to be a bit all over the place, but it's going to make sense eventually. I don't want to sound not so nice, but don't expect people to be so warm. Okay, how do I say this in a nice way? Okay, so let's just say, you know, when you pick a public transportation in Ghana, like the moment you sit down, you just like good morning, or hello, good afternoon. Like when you sit down, you just are conscious of the people around you, and then you, out of courtesy, out of politeness, and out of the way we're brought up back home, you just say hello and hi to them. But over here, you're okay without saying hello or hi to anybody because there's a chance they may not respond. Some may respond, but they'll find it a bit weird, like, why are you talking to me? So when you go onto the trams, you go onto the metros, you go onto whatever transportation system, just sit down and move, because there's been a few occasions where I do reach out, or I say hello, hi, and then sometimes it's silent or it's a mumbling. And so please don't expect people to be as cordial as you're used to back home, typically from African countries. Okay, so that's one of the things which is quite weird, but you get used to it. The next thing I also like to talk about is that you cannot flag public transportation at any point on the road. You cannot do that. There are designated bus stops, so you cannot just flag a bus when you're not even near the stop. You cannot flag a bus when the bus has just left. No, you cannot do that. You always have to be at the right stop at the right time so that you do not miss the bus. There have been situations where I was like 30 seconds shy of the bus stop, like literally can see the bus here. I'm just trying to run to get it, but it moves just when I'm about to enter. And some people say some of the drivers may deliberately do that, but I've also had drivers who have actually stopped for me, so I can't generalize and say they are leaving because you are late. And even though they could, no, they've done it. I've seen them do it to just me. I've even seen it happen to Hungarians as well. So it's not just that, but you cannot flag public transportation. When I say public transport, in this case the buses, because obviously you cannot go and flag a metro, or you cannot go and flag a train even under normal circumstances. So you cannot just stop a bus and then say, I want to get down here at this particular place. Meanwhile, there's no designated bus stop. Maybe you can do that back home, but over here you cannot do that. And also you cannot also ask the bus driver to stop at any point in the journey for you to get off. Back home we have a driver and we have what we call the mate. The mate is a conductor, so he sits on the first passenger seat closest to the door, so he's the one usually opening the door. We do have buses that the most common mode of public transportation is what we call the trotro. I think I have a video of it somewhere in the past, but what happens is that there's a seat in front, and then usually there are two seats right next to the driver, and those two seats near the driver have their own doors, and the driver also has their own door. But at the back, there's like maybe 20 seats, maybe 3 in a row or 4 in a row, and 25, 20, or even 15 seats. But then there's a gentleman. Most of the time it's a gentleman, but sometimes ladies are also made, but it's very rare. So there's a gentleman who sits next to the door, and he's the one who will take all your money, and he's the one who will give you all your change, and he's the one who you tell every stop you would get off at. So yeah, the transportation system back home is a bit manual, and I think the mates, as we call them, are really smart, because they have to keep in their memory everyone they have collected money from, everyone who is due some change, and also the stops of the people. There's been instances where a mate may forget where somebody has told them they are going to stop, but it's also your responsibility to keep reminding the mates, because there's been instances where people would sit in a vehicle and they don't know exactly where they are getting off at, and then maybe they tell the driver or the mate while they are coming into the transportation, while they're coming to the church, or some don't even tell the mate anything, then they assume they can figure it out by the names. But then most of it, maybe the mates would forget, and they also don't remind the mate, and then they are taken far off the place. So what happens in the public transportation in Ghana is that the mates, immediately the bus takes off, it can take off from anywhere. It can take off from a station, it can take off from maybe he's coming home, so he just starts into the main road or anywhere. The mate starts to mention the names of the stops, so he can say, so he will be mentioning it. And so when you hear your stop, you say bus stop. They have to literally cock your ear so that when the mate mentions the stop, you be getting that you say bus stop. So what happens is that when he say bus stop, then the mate tells the driver that Vesheleni, or the may tell the driver that, oh, Kinijut bus stop, or Kinijut's a bus stop. So when we are almost getting there, the mate sticks his hand outside the car and then he slaps the car. Bus stop, bus stop. And it's also the same mechanism. If somebody is trying to get into the car, it doesn't have to be from a bus stop. If you're trying to get into the car and the mate spots you, you just hit the back of the car, bang, 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 bang. Bus stop. And then the driver stops. Sometimes the driver can stop in the middle of the road. Sometimes the driver can stop on a junction. Sometimes the driver can stop 1 second away from the actual bus stop. It can be frustrating sometimes, but that's also the flexibility of the transportation system. And also that's also a disadvantage of the transportation system, because I know when I'm moving from, let's say I'm moving from Fovamte to Calvente, it will take me 2 minutes. Or let me just look for a longer place. Let's say I'm moving from Uganda to Bethany, and let's say it will take me 15 minutes to get there. I can actually tell somebody, I'm leaving home at 3:30. I'm going to meet you at Bethany there at 3:45, and I'm going to get there at 3:45. But with the nature of the Ghanaian or typical African transportation system, because everybody can stop at any time, he can stop and pick anybody, he can even, sometimes the car will not even move until the bus is full, so it can even be there for 30 minutes, 1 hour. Okay, so you cannot tell somebody, oh, I'm coming from point A to point B, so I'll be there in 15 minutes. No, it may be 15 minutes on Google Maps, but as I've already mentioned, the dynamics of the transportation system, the person may end up getting there later than usual, and in some rare occasions earlier than usual. So that's also one of the things you should expect. Don't flag a bus, and don't try to stop a bus at any point which is not the bus stop. And also, unlike in the Ghanaian system, where you can actually tell the bus driver, oh, I'll get down here, and you can tell the mate or the conductor that I'll get down here and he remembers. Over here you just have buttons you can just press, and you know. And then you also have to note that Budapest transportation system is mainly run by the BKK, and then there are different, how do you call, vending machines in the towns and near different bus stops where you can actually go and buy your bus ticket. There are different kinds of ticketing options you can get from the vending machine. So you buy that, and then if it's a kind of ticket that actually needs validation, you validate it in the bus and then you utilize it. But if it's not one that needs to be validated, you just make sure you have it on you, just in case anybody comes checking, they can actually see. But the difference is, back home we don't really have a ticketing system like that. You actually pay cash in hand, and then they give you your change if you are due any change. Yeah, so that's one of the things. The next thing I also like to talk about is, if you're a woman, don't expect a Hungarian guy to approach you. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if we as black women intimidate Hungarian men. It's very rare for a guy to try to talk to you on the streets. Maybe back home you can be walking by the street, somebody will just say hello, hi, and start trying to get your attention and all that good stuff. Good stuff. But over here in Hungary, it's very, very rare. Maybe they are shy or intimidated, or don't know how to go about it, because it's a whole different spectrum when it comes to the cultural dynamics. So you don't expect a Hungarian person to talk to you. In fact, if you see a Hungarian guy you're actually interested in, maybe you should actually make the move. It's pretty normal here for women to actually make their moves towards men. Or then maybe you make use of the dating apps. I also noticed that dating apps are really more common here in Hungary than in Ghana. Honestly, when I was in Ghana, I used to hear of Tinder and all of that, but I used to think, and the perception around this was that it's mainly for hookups, like people who just go on there and hook up. So when I moved into Hungary, I actually thought that was also the same thing here, until I started when I was in the dating space. I also tried to use it. I think I used Tinder and Bumble at a point, and it was a bit different from the Tinder I'd heard of in Ghana, but I think at the end of the day it was mainly the same thing, really. So at the end of the day, I just got off both apps, and my life has been much better since then. So that's also one of the things. There's nothing wrong with you if a Hungarian guy is not approaching you. It's much easier for black guys actually to approach you, because they are your people basically, so they know how things go by. You have even more black guys hitting on you than Hungarian guys. It's very rare for a Hungarian guy to actually walk up to you, try to strike a conversation, or try to flirt with you or woo you or any of that. So don't be surprised if that does not happen. You may be having thousands of men on your beck and call back home, trying to call you as you're walking down the street. People be like, "Sss, like, what is that?" And all those cat calls and sister, era, madam, angel. And then when you're not interested and you don't mind, then they'll start insulting you. Not all of them, but some of them. But it's very common for somebody to walk up to you. It doesn't matter the caliber of person, their level of education, their approach. it's common, but over here is very different. You as the woman as well might as well make a move or try to get their attention if you're interested in them like that. So that is also one of the things I like to talk about. And the next thing I also like to talk about is in Hungary here, most of the apartments are already furnished for you. More than 70% of the time when you're moving into a new flat, into a new apartment in Budapest, it's already finished. It usually would come with basic equipment for you to live peacefully with. You would have a bed, you would have a couch, depending on what you are renting, you would have a cupboard, you would have a study table, you would have, in some cases, even a television. There's also almost all the time a washing machine. There's an oven and a stove, there's a kettle, there's a refrigerator. It comes with the apartment. Like, the apartment is fully furnished, so all you have to do is to pay your rent. Sometimes the rent would include your bills, or sometimes you'd actually pay your rent separately, and then the bills will be calculated based on your consumption. So it actually makes it easier for expats and immigrants like us, who are more often than not on the move, to easily just get a place to stay like that. For example, where I'm actually staying right now, when I moved into the apartment, I just needed to bring my suitcases. That was all I needed to bring, my suitcases with clothes. Everything just came with the apartment. So you move in with your clothes. When it's time to leave, you just move out with your clothes, okay? Usually when you're renting in Ghana, the apartment is empty. If you're lucky, the walls may be painted for you, but it doesn't come with anything. It doesn't come with anything. You literally have to carry your beds, your stoves, your cabinet, fix your own sink, get a plumber, carpenter to do some installations for you. So that's also one of the things. In Ghana, you know, we have something we call the compound house. A compound house is a house that has like different apartments and different family units living in the different apartments, okay? So it's like, depending on how you relate with them, everybody can be or may not be in your business, but like everybody lives in the same compound. You may park your cars in the same compound, you may hang your stuff in the same compound, you may pound fufu, cook in the same compound, depending on the kind of meal you want to cook. Maybe you want to do fufu, you most likely than not come outside, pound the fufu. You want to do bankone, co-pot, you come outside and then do it here. But it's quite different here, because I would say most of the apartments in Budapest are compound houses, but not compound houses, you know, because you're living with so many people. Like, you're living in a building with different apartments, and also sometimes you may even live in an apartment with other people. It's very common to share an apartment with so many people. You can share an apartment with 1, 2, 3, 4, and the list goes on. But what happens is that you may have your private room, but then you'll be sharing kitchen, toilet, and bathroom with other people. In some situations, depending on the number of people, there may be multiple kitchen and bath which would be shared, but most of the time it's one that would be shared. The kitchen is one kitchen you all share, then you all have designated places where you put your items. So it's very common to live like that in Hungary. You may share with somebody, but also you can equally rent a studio, you can rent a single room with a hall. But the difference between a compound house here in Hungary or here in Budapest and a compound house in Ghana is that you can't do as many things as you would do in a compound house in Ghana here. For example, I live in a compound house. So, but the thing is, there's a beautiful, nice compound in the middle of the house. I really envy the compound, because I'm like, this compound can do so many things back home, but it's always empty. It's always empty. You don't see anybody drying. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, the sun is really shining today. I would like to dry my clothes outside for some sunshine. But then I look outside and I've never seen anybody hang their clothes outside. So nothing really happens on the compound. So it's not a compound house, but everybody uses the same door to get out. In Ghana, if you live in a compound house, you know your neighbor's name, you know their kids, can call their kids, send them, hey, you, why are you not in school today? Where's your mommy? They're like, oh, my mommy, okay, come here, come and sit in my room, come and watch TV, this. But no, you don't do that over here. Except maybe those who actually live in the same flat with you. Even that one, if you're not lucky, you may have unfriendly people, or maybe very reserved and introverted people who do not want to be in any other person's business. If you're lucky, you may also have some nice people you can actually talk, mingle, gel with here and there. So that's also one of the things to expect. If you have any questions, or if you actually know of some interesting facts I have not spoken about in the video, you can leave it in the comment section. I'm going to read. I'm going to leave a like as well. So kindly like as you're watching this video, subscribe, and I really appreciate all the love, all the support I can get at this point in time. As always, my name is Na Yabole, and this has been Yabbies Own. I'm going to definitely see you in the next video. Until then, it's bye. If you want to do back on a that's what I think. Co-pot.